there's like an idea that like the only thing that would impact the way the price was settled would be like the time taken or labor time of some kind.
No.
Is that okay?
No, there's a distinction between value, the way Marx defines value, and what he considers to be the influences on market prices. Right. When he talks about value, he's just talking about something divorced from market prices.
Mm-hmm. If you're thinking of like value in terms of pricing, you're probably thinking of like Adam Smith or something.
Communist, 100 million dead, Vuvuzela.
Vuvuzela, yeah.
Stalin killed 80 Gorillion.
Yep.
Wait.
So
Stalin bad.
So Marx like the labor theory of value doesn't go to like explain the price.
No,
yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Price and value are two different things on the
Right.
LTV.
The intention of the LTV is to just provide an analysis of the capitalist mode of production. Right? Value isn't being defined as it would be within a socialist or communist society necessarily. He's talking about what value just is, objectively, in any economy that involves labor. And he considers that divorced from market price. And as you already said, the way he would go about concluding what the value of an item is through assessing socially necessary labor time.
What influence does value, under Marxist sense, have on price?
I think it's largely indirect. This is one area of the LTV I'm not the strongest on, but I think the way it works is price is going to be a compounding of factors, one of which is how much profit a capitalist perceives he can extract from a given item.
Supply and demand. Price. Prices are going to follow supply and demand, right?
In a market economy, yeah, correct.
Yeah,
that's market price, yeah.
Right, and supply and demand determines price, but price isn't what Marx considers to be value. Correct. So, right.
Socrates invoked equilibrium price. There we go. Which my understanding of it is probably pretty lackluster compared to what he understands or what Mikulash understands. So Sock could probably just give you a quick explanation if he's available.
Well, is equilibrium price what Marx considers to be value?
No.
Well, then what is value? How would you determine value?
You know the answer to that question. It's socially necessary labor time. You know that. I'm just telling you I'm not exactly 100% on the relationship between Marx's conception of value and market price in a capitalist economy. That's why I'm deferring to people that probably know about it more. But it's definitely not. He doesn't take value and price to be one and the same at all.
No, I understand that part. I understand that even Marx admits of I guess supply and that prices reflect the consumer's willingness to pay for what the consumer product, what they can deem it worth, right? And that price isn't considered to be the same as value, correct?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
But then there's long-term equilibrium prices, but I'm hearing, which I kind of thought that was what Marx's idea of value was, but now you're telling me it isn't. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can just look it up for you. That's probably the best option. I'm happy to learn about things I don't know about.
Would we say that supply and demand is sufficient to explain like a company that's a startup that has a small customer base and they can't lower the product price any lower than they can, but the demand is for that of lower prices, so they go out of business?
Well, there's a given
price
demand.
Cannot follow the demand.
Sorry, there's a given demand at every price along the production and price curve. So it's not as if like demand evaporates if you increase the price by $1. It's that it is on some kind of scale or some kind of slope.
Yeah, there's two slopes that they intersect with each other.
Yeah.
Well, that's the understanding of equilibrium, not of Marx.
Right, but in the situation where you have a startup, imagine you sell 0 products, but your price can't go low enough to be sold.
Then you made a big mistake.
Well, that would go into supply, though.
Right. If you create a product and you can't sell it below a certain price, but there is no demand for your product, you go out of business, right? That's simple.
But the demand is there, just for a lower price that you can't produce it at.
Yeah, but the supply isn't there.
I don't understand what you mean by the supply isn't there. We made the products.
No, you
No,
made the
supply
products.
isn't about how much you make. It's about the cost of you making.
Right. You can't get the cloth at the price that would make it possible for you to sell it at the price that the market is willing to pay for.
And the price that they're willing to pay for it may vary between like random things like personal utility.
What I'm getting is that he thought equilibrium prices were basically the market price given the lack of external factors on a capitalist economy, and that in actuality, that is to say in practice, the actual price of any good is going to fluctuate within a given range surrounding the equilibrium price. So it's not the same as value. He has a conception of value divorced from that. He's essentially just saying you can assess the capitalist mode of production such that a baseline price will come about, and any price that item actually has in a capitalist system will always be within a given range of its equilibrium price. So it seems like that concept is much...
It's going to fluctuate. It's going to fluctuate. I mean, prices fluctuate, but they will fluctuate around a given equilibrium price, right?
Yeah, that seems to be my understanding.
But that equilibrium price is not Marx's concept of value.
No. The goal, like I said, the goal of the LTV is not necessarily to perform an assessment of supply and demand economics. He's assessing the capitalist mode of production. That is to say, what constitutes profit and what constitutes labor and what constitutes value within the capitalist mode of production.
So then where does value enter the marketplace at all?
It doesn't have to.
I think it's factored into supply.
What are the
different
kinds of value Marx talks about? There's like utility value.
Well, yeah, that's just standard things like your
use value.
Your use value is something that the product is useful to me, and I'm willing to pay $10 for it.
So when a laborer engages in labor, right, they have two types of value outputted from their labor. There's necessary value, and then there's surplus value. The necessary value is what the worker keeps to feed himself, to clothe himself, to purchase shelter, that sort of stuff. But the surplus value, which is also a product of his labor, is taken by the capitalist as profit. That's why Marx thought profit was the result of performing equations related to the organic composition of capital. Right?
Yeah,
so if that's the case, then it seems like while value may or may not be tied directly to the price of an item in a capitalist economy, in a supply and demand system, it is tied to the mechanism by which capitalists extract profit from workers. And thus there is bearing on the capitalist system insofar as Marx's understanding of value is concerned, even if it's just from the lens of labor.
But as I understand it, what we've been talking about so far, Pogan, is that value, Marx's concept of value, does not enter the marketplace at all.
Well, I mean, like I said, it doesn't seem to, but I could be incorrect about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Nor do I think it would be like a significant blow against the theory, even if it didn't, right?
Well,
his goal isn't to explain. Well, hold on. His goal isn't to explain market price. His goal is to explain how value works in capitalism and how extraction of profit works in capitalism.
Well, value doesn't work in capitalism at all. Under Marx's concept of value, it's not value. It's
well, we just told
prices.
you, and it's
prices.
That's
right?
not true, though.
Prices, but prices aren't value.
Well, look, divorced from market
No, the
price.
exchange value is just part of the commodity. There's also the use value that goes into it, which then
Yeah.
becomes socially necessary labor time,
Yeah, but
which
those
is what
things,
Marx
those
calls value.
right, but those things aren't Marx's.
Well, let's
concept
address
of
what you
value.
said, though, right? Even if it was the case.
No, yes, that is part of his concept of value. His concept of
But-
value is a commodity, and the use value and the exchange value, which then exchanges into the social necessary labor time. That's exactly what he means by value.
But use value and those things, those are we can sort of translate that into just modern economic speak. It's the price that I'm willing to pay for a certain product that is.
No.
It's my
No,
it's
that's
the
not.
use
That's
value to
exchange
me.
value. That's
Okay,
exchange value.
exchange-
Use
okay,
value is your personal value.
Even if it was the case that somebody didn't pay, I don't know, $25 for a fucking chair, right? The chair would still have value, even if nobody paid money for it, in Marx's view. It would still be the case that that chair had value as a consequence of the socially necessary labor that went into making the chair. Also, you made a claim like 10 minutes ago about how it has no bearing on capitalism. Even if it was the
I
case
didn't
that
claim. It was more of a question, Pogan.
Sure, that's fine. Even if it was the case that none of this stuff about market price came to pass or whatever, I just told you that Marx gave an analysis of how profit was extracted by capitalists in the capitalist system, and that involves his conception of labor value.
Okay, so is this using Marx's concept of value, which is not price, right?
That's correct.
So
From what I
I'm
understand.
just having trouble. I'm having trouble seeing the connection.
Okay, here's the connection. You're a worker in a factory. You build chairs. That's your job. You output, in his view, you output two kinds of value through your labor, right? Necessary value, which is going to be kept by you to purchase necessities, shelter, food, clothes, etc. And then you also output surplus value, right? Which is still a product of your labor. But the surplus value is going to be immediately taken by the capitalist, who, of course, employs you, as profit. This is why he thought profit required organic composition of capital, aka workers. Right? So I don't. So
Okay.
how? If that? Do
So-
you not think that has no bearing whatsoever on capitalism? You think his conception of value
I'm not sure it
has
does,
no
because
bearing on capitalism?
It sounds to me like what you're saying is I need a certain living wage, right? So I would put that into the language of a living wage. I need a living wage in order to work at this job. Is that what you mean? Right? Because I need to be able to survive on the wages that I earn by selling my labor. Correct?
Yeah, your
That's-
wage is necessary value.
Right. So
You
I
can
need
look at it like that.
Right, so I need a living wage. Okay. Well, I don't really see how that enters into the market. It might enter into decisions about whether or not I take that job.
Why are you talking about the market, though? Right, that's what I'm not understanding. Your question was just how does his understanding of value enter the capitalist system? And I told you that his conception of profit required extraction of surplus value from laborers. If that's not a connection to capitalism, I don't know what is.
I don't see the connection.
Pogan, the market is capitalism. Markets are a function of capitalism. They're the institution through which capitalism works.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. The question was just how does his conception of value connect with capitalism? To which,
Here's the problem that
sorry, her question.
people, the problem that people have is that you're looking at this analysis of value and labor theory of value and trying to see how that relates to how capitalists and consumers make decisions in the ongoing system that exists.
I didn't understand any of that.
Marx didn't care about how people made decisions.
No, people like Brenda,
Look,
who
lost.
are
Right.
trying to understand this Marxism stuff, are trying to relate it to how people make decisions in capitalism.
Right.
Okay. So let's rewind then, Russell.
Concerned about that is nonsensical.
Look, let's rewind, okay? Because there was a very specific question asked. The question was, and it was phrased kind of like this: I don't see how Marx's conception of value deals with markets. Now, you just said that you take markets to just be capitalism. Great.
No, I didn't say markets are capitalism. Markets are a key institution of
what you said verbatim was that the markets are capitalism, but that's fine. If you didn't mean that, it's fine, right? The point is, if the question is just how value connects to capitalism, that answer was provided. His conception of value is how capitalists extract profit from laborers. Now, we can disagree about whether or not that's actually the case. You can have a discussion about that. But that question was answered. Insofar as how his understanding of value pertains to market prices, Squish gave a pretty good response about exchange value and how it differs from use value, right? But granted, I'm not an expert on the price question. You would have to defer to somebody else. But to insinuate that her question wasn't answered is just wrong.
Well. So the way I take it is that I'm selling my labor. There's a market for my labor, and if I'm not going to get enough from the job that I'm applying for in order to live, I'm not going to take that job. Or if I have to,
you ultimately don't have a choice, though, right? That's the point.
I have a lot of choices. I can form a union and negotiate with management for a better deal. I can simply quit the job.
Look, Brenda, you could organize.
Just a minute, or I can lead political. I can make political changes or revolutionary changes. Those would all be alternatives, right?
Okay. So even if you organize, even if you get into a union and you negotiate with the manager or bosses of Walmart or whatever for a better wage, the point is that it's still the case. Like, even if you get a better wage, it's still the case that you're still having value stolen from you, right? Because even if they give you a teeny tiny bit of your surplus value back to you, they're still extracting the vast majority of your surplus value as profit. If they were to give you the full value of your labor, they wouldn't be profiting.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that because now I have enough. I formed my union, and now I make enough to live comfortably, and so I'm okay with that.
That's just to say you're okay with having value stolen from you.
Well, it's not stolen if I agree to it.
You don't look, but that's what I was trying to say to you earlier. To say you agreed to it and that justifies theft of labor value is to insinuate that laborers have a choice in a capitalist economy insofar as working or not working is concerned, right?
Well, I did have a choice.
You have a limited amount of choice insofar as where you actually work is concerned.
Don't agree on the value of labor, then why are you having this conversation? Like, this is fucking dumb.
All right, whatever. Look, the point is, if you don't agree that it's the case in a capitalist system, you either work or you starve to death, realistically speaking. Barring situations where you start your own business, there are reasons to think that would be unsuccessful that we can get into, right? Your choice is basically limited to where you want to work. But no matter where you work, no matter where which institution you provide your labor to, you're still going to have value stolen from you. And you don't have the choice to have the full value of your labor provided to you so long as you work for a wage. Well, that's the point.
Yeah, but my point is I could be okay with that. I could be because I have formed the union, right? We got together and we negotiated a better deal with management, right? And so we got a deal where we've got health care and I have enough to live.
Yeah, if you're okay with having value stolen from you, if you're okay with wages for the past several decades not rising proportionally to productivity, if you're okay with all of that, then power to you. I'm happy for you.
Well, it's not being stolen if I'm agreeing to it.
We just said that the point is laborers in that sort of society have a dichotomous choice. You work or you starve to death. Right? Now, you can choose where to work to a limited degree, but you can't choose not to work in a capitalist economy.
Well, yeah, you can. You can.
You can, and you starve to death, making it a Hobson's dilemma. There's really only one choice.
I think that's
You
kind
can
of a
get
false
Social Security or some
that's a false dichotomy. I think you can get. There are other options, but so I think it's kind of.
What are the other options?
You can. A lot of societies have ways of supporting people who are unemployed.
Okay.
Right. So you have unemployment.
Do you think that
insurance.
that sort of system is going to continue existing if the majority of laborers are on welfare?
Well, no. If unemployment is like a very high percent, then no. But typically,
so inevitably there's going to be a significantly large group of people that are basically forced to engage in labor in which they have value stolen from them, right?
No, they agree to it. You keep using these words like stolen when I'm pointing out that you can agree to have your necessary labor and then your surplus labor in exchange for what you consider to be a good deal, right?
Brenda, are you just saying you have a choice in the sense that you can choose to starve to death? Is that what you're saying?
I think you're totalizing this. I'm saying that
He's saying that people make that bargain, like they accept.
I can make a bargain. I can make a bargain. Why?
Yeah, that's
and that's a
true,
choice.
That's not the contention. I agree they make that bargain, but the point is that they have to. They're coerced.
You keep calling that theft, and that's what I'm kind of objecting to.
That's the Marxist view, yes.
Well,
but look, the point
fuck
is,
off with the Marxist view. That's bullshit.
But the point is, okay, that's bullshit. But like what you're saying is are you merely saying that you're okay with like working for like a wage job? Is that or that most people are okay with that?
I'm not speaking as I'm speaking as a hypothetical laborer. I'm saying that I could agree to a condition where I give my necessary labor and my surplus labor in exchange for what I consider to be a livable wage and livable working conditions. You know what
they
I
will
consider,
always pay you
right?
something livable.
Well,
Yeah,
either
that's pretty
livable
much.
or I don't want dangerous working conditions or whatever it is. I want.
Yeah, but
I want them to give me. I want them to give me.
You're straightforwardly missing the point.
That's cool as like
I
a
don't see
desire
how
to
I'm
have,
missing
like,
the point. I'm saying
But
that's
cool.
I'm saying that's an agreement, and I'm objecting to classifying that as theft because if I consent to something,
It's not an ethical
theft.
consideration, though, right? We're not saying it's theft. It's bad. All that we mean when we say theft is.
And that's where.
Excuse me.
Beyond the theft thing, which is beyond the theft thing, it's like I can see that it's good to have certain standards to which you're gonna accept that bargain, right? But like, it seems pretty obvious, like by the development of like Western economies, like in the last 20 years, that you can't like possibly be like someone who's not deluded and expect that bargain to be like held up, right? Or for your employers at large to actually keep that promise of keeping you safe, of giving you ways.
Again, I'm just saying.
Unions were for.
Again, I'm just saying.
Where are unions now in North America?
I don't know why people keep invoking unions. It's like unions have been systemically crushed every single fucking time they gain any sort of meaningful steam, and the few industries in which they do it, the few industries in which
yes, they have in the United States. They definitely have, Gus.
Recently, yeah, but that crushing that's
okay.
I mean,
let's let Gus over
No,
talk
it
and just
happened
ramble.
after 1971. It happened after 1971 in the strike of the United States Postal Service when they decided to outlaw striking and that's it. Outlaw striking.
No, Squish, see, like, no matter how many examples you provide to him of unions being fucking curb stomped by capitalists, he's just going to give you, like, one instance in which this, like, piddly-ass little union still exists, and they maybe once in a while successfully negotiate for, like, a 10-cent raise. It's just a waste of time.
Okay,
just
if you work for the government, it's actually illegal for you to strike. You will go to jail, federal prison.
Yeah, there are ways of correcting that.
Yeah, right. What are those?
I mean,
I mean, the unions. When. Oh, okay, well, burn it down then. No, cook it all. Take a fucking flamethrower and just roast it all. Roast it all. No, absolutely. Let's not have democracy. Let's
This is like a straw man of
the fucking tanks.
It's like a straw man of the position.
Bullshit. Okay, because if you don't have democracy, if you don't have police to keep order, if everybody can do whatever they want to, you're gonna endure a fucking hell.
Yeah, this is a bootlicking server. We understand.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor
You will
Statistics,
endure a hell waiting for
down
things to
50%
fucking balance
since
themselves out.
1983. So the crushing, I don't know if is necessarily true.
It's completely crushed in Europe and in the U.S.
Look, not according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics.
What does it say?
It says they've gone down 50% roughly since 1983.
Nice, dude. Wow.
Good.
So this they hardly exist bullshit is kind of dumb, right?
It says that they have no power. Like labor union, like union.
I don't think the claim.
And the point is, but let me like about what Gus is saying about burning it all down. Like it's like a very basic misconstrual of like.
It's not a basic misconstrual.
Let me talk though, right?
No, but this is bullshit. Every fucking time every time we get into this bullshit, you Marxists all have the same fucking response.
You fucking Marxists.
Do away with this.
People.
Do away with that.
You're really good at
No one said that. Do away with this. No one said that.
I don't understand.
Why do you overtalk like a fucking kid?
Every goddamn time we try to hold you people to account for the times you
I'm gonna order some food. Let me know when he's done freaking out.
Already tried,
Pogan,
and you fucking failed. You guys keep deking to the left and deking to the right. I don't know how many times we have to point to history and say
let me know when you're gonna let me talk.
I fucking will.
Hey, Lost
Soul, every time we point to fucking revolution and we show that it's been worth more goddamn blood than it's fucking worth.
Nobody's talking about revolution.
Lost Soul, are you